Greetings and salutations. If I didn't tell you differently, I bet you might be thinking right now that you've clicked on one of my older videos. It looks like Linux Mint 16 or 17, but it is not. This is Linux Mint 20. I installed it this morning and I decided to theme it up in the old-fashioned way, the way it looked when I first started doing Linux videos many years ago, and we talked an awful lot about Linux Mint. My first experiences with Linux Mint 20 weren't the greatest, and I posted a couple of videos talking about that, and I also expressed my concern about some of the political things that the Linux Mint folks are doing these days with this release, and it concerns snap packages. And those videos, I got just lamb-blasted, man. I'm telling you. You guys, well, not all of you guys, but some of you guys, you know, you were like, he's nothing but an Ubuntu fanboy. He doesn't like Linux Mint anymore. Yeah, whatever. I had a difficult time getting it going, and I even said in the video, hey, this is what actually happened, and people came along and said, how convenient, you can't get it to run. So this is Linux Mint Revisited. We're going to take a look around, and I've been running this throughout the day today. This is on physical hardware. This is my main machine that I use every day, and the installation was actually quite pleasant. What I did, I just went through the steps like you would, you know, any time you would install, right? So let me open up the welcome screen. So I installed it, and then I booted it up, and I followed the steps here. So the first thing that it offers you is the ability to choose your desktop environment, right? So what I did is I chose the traditional look of the Cinnamon desktop, which is what's going on here, and then I modified that a little bit more because I always have. And then it asked me to set up system snapshots. That's time shift. So I went ahead and did that. So we can take a look at that setup. And I immediately took a snapshot as soon as I had this set up. This is Time Shift. It's a program that I've talked about a lot. I use it on any distribution of Linux I happen to be running because it does an amazing thing. It allows you to roll back to a known good state of the operating system with just a couple of clicks, and it'll save your butt if something crashes and goes crazy. What some people do with Time Shift is they use it to actually like back up their home directories and their data. I don't. It's not really good at that. It's not really made to do that. It will do it. What it is really good at is taking snapshots of the operating system directories and returning them to the way they were if something goes wrong. If you include your home directory in there, first of all, it's going to take a lot longer to do that, and second of all, I don't necessarily want to roll back all the work that I've done and saved in my home directory just because I want to fix something with the operating system. So there are other tools that you can use to do backups like that. I have a couple of videos up about this particular program, and you can go to my channel and then do a search there and you'll see. Just type in Time Shift and they'll pop up. I go into great detail about how it works. So then we moved on and we installed the proper drivers for the video and ran the update manager and chose the mirrors and got that all straight, and then system settings, and then we got system software there, set up my firewall, just walked right through that. It was actually a really pleasant experience. And as far as installing software was concerned, it was actually easier than what I'm used to maintaining my Ubuntu systems. I've not run Linux Mint probably in about 2 or 3 years. I've been running Ubuntu. It's been working better for me for the last 2 or 3 years, but I've been supporting people who run Linux Mint, so I'm familiar with it. And what I have found is that when I sat down and reinstalled Linux Mint here, is that they had stuff in here that I didn't have to replace or didn't have to add plugins to, that sort of thing. So like for instance, they have these lovely X apps. One of my favorites is edX, which is, no, it's XEd. edX is actually a place where you can take classes about Linux and other computer things. So got that confused in my mind. This is Xed, which is a fork of Pluma, the Mate Desktop's editor, and they do some really nifty things with it here. And I'm going to open up a file with it so you guys can see what's going on. So let's go ahead and open. What shall we open? I don't know. It could be anything, man. He could open up anything. No, actually, it's not going to be that interesting. We're just going to go here and grab one of these Ubuntu install scripts here so I can prove a point. So when I install Ubuntu, there's a lot that I have to do to kind of massage it to make it do what I want it to do. And so what I did was wrote scripts that allow me to do this in such a way that most of it is automated. And look at all the software that I need to install to get standard Ubuntu running, and then I have some files that are in deb packages that I want to automatically install. I like Google Chrome, so I replace Firefox with Google Chrome. I've been installing a little package that I can't live without called MP3 Gain, and the only place that it's currently being packaged and offered for Ubuntu is in a snap. Now, I do have some deb packages of MP3 Gain that still work. Martin Wimpress, who is the head of development for the Ubuntu desktop team these days, and also the creator of the Ubuntu Mate spin of Ubuntu, he was maintaining this for quite some time, and then somebody put it in a snap, so I still have some of those. Then there's a fix that I have to put in for my sound card so it doesn't pop and click at me. And then down here we have modifications that have to be made so that I can actually burn physical CDs and DVDs, which I still want to do on occasion for reasons that, well, I was going to say that shall remain untalked about, but what the hell, I can talk about it. I do a lot of audio work, and sometimes I have to burn a CD. And I like burning CDs. Leave me alone. Anyway, so you see there's a lot that goes into actually doing an Ubuntu install, whereas Linux Mint, it was very organic, and I just kind of looked at that list of stuff and grabbed the stuff and threw it in here, and like get, and I use MC, and which is Midnight Commander. That's a file manager that runs in the terminal. All those little programs I was able to grab. I use Audacity. I got those, and some extra codecs and things like that. I do need to install the Truetype fonts in here. The Microsoft Truetype fonts. Let's see, can we do that real quick? Let's we'll just go ahead and take care of that right now. You don't mind, do you? I mean, you got nothing better to do, right? This is Linux Mint's lovely software manager, which I actually like quite a bit. This is one of the more straightforward of these sorts of applications that's available for Linux. So if I do this, it should take me to the package that I want. There it is. So I want to put those fonts in. These are Microsoft fonts, and this makes it nice when you open up something in LibreOffice that somebody edited on Windows, because then the fonts will render properly and looks the way it should, that sort of thing. So it should be installing. At some point I'm going to have to check yes, and should bring up like a EULA or something like that. Oh, there it is right there. Yes, I accept the EULA. Next. So that will finish installing those fonts for me. It's just something I forgot to put in this morning. Usually on Ubuntu, if you install Ubuntu Restricted Extras, that's something that comes in with it. But with Linux Mint, when you install, what happens is that you check a box that puts most of the codecs and things like that in there. So it's going out and getting that right now. We can just let that go on and do its thing, I think. This is lovely Nemo, which is the very nice file manager that has been part of the Linux Mint experience for a long, long time. One of my favorite parts of the Linux Mint experience, to tell you the truth, is this file manager. It's very well done and very useful, and it's fully featured, and and you can hit F3, dang it, and it'll split the screen up, and I just love that. There is actually, or there was actually, a video on this channel that I was so enamored with the fact that I could do this. I think you can do it with Kaha too, which is the file manager for the Mate desktop, but some you can, some you can't. That's just a real nice feature. So thank you, Linux Mint folks. I appreciate that. Okay. That is installed. We're going to leave that there. We're going to switch over to the next desktop. One of the things I like about the Cinnamon desktop are how you can manage the desktops. So the alternate and control key plus the up arrow gives you an overview of everything that's open on the computer. That's awesome sauce. And then down shows you all of the applications that are open on the desktop, and the right and left keys move you from one to another. And when you are in this mode, so if I go into this mode right here and I want to add another virtual desktop, I just do it that way, and if I want to get rid of it, I just make it go away. Now, a lot of you guys, if you're a GNOME desktop user, or GNOME if you want to sound like an idiot and call it that, those desktops are generated automatically and killed automatically. And as somebody who's been using the GNOME desktop for quite some time, that can be a pain in the butt sometimes, because you might want to actually have 4 desktops and desktop number 3 doesn't have anything on it, and you can't really do that because it tries to fight you all the way. Anyway, this is the memory consumption. I got a lot of stuff open right now, and I'm also capturing high definition video, which accounts for the high CPU activity here. And this is a rather old machine that I am running this on. So let's see, if I go in here to the system settings, we should be able to look at the system info. And I can show you that, because I'm sure there are people who are watching this video that don't know everything about what I do, but there you go. So it tells you this is Linux Mint 20 Cinnamon Uliana is the name of it, right? What kernel we're running. Got some really old Xeon processors in this machine. There's actually 2 physical processors in this machine, 4 cores each, no hyper-threading. The machine dates back to like 2014, so long in the tooth these days. Bless you. Let's see, we got 32 gigabytes of RAM, and got a terabyte hard drive in here, got an old spinner in here. We're actually doing this on a spinning drive. It is a Western Digital Caviar Black. I did have this thing all loaded up with SSDs, but it was kind of silly for the work I do. I really wasn't getting any advantage of it except the boot time. And so I took it out and put one of these old drives in. I've got a whole box of these things, and they refuse to die. So for what I do with the computer on a daily basis, especially since I tend to create a lot of really big files and then get rid of them, then it makes sense. When I first booted this up, because people always ask how much memory did it use, it used about 664 megabytes of memory. That's what it reported. One of the things that I did do here, gang, was I went into the settings and I went to the startup applications, and I turned a whole bunch of this garbage off because I ain't never going to use it. They have all kinds of lovely little creature features. They've got this thing called System Reports. I'm not a big fan of that. They've got the Warpinator, which is actually a really cool application. Warpinator allows you to take a bunch of Linux Mint computers on the same network and really easily transfer files back and forth without having to do any kind of setup. You know, I use SSH or SSHFS or SFTP to transfer files across my network. I don't fool around with Samba or anything like that. And Samba is just such a big pain in the ass anyway that I don't even bother with it. I tell people just don't. And so it's nice that they have come up with this thing that allows you to do that. Now, I can't demonstrate that because I don't have any other Linux Mint machines running on the network. Everything else is Ubuntu. So anyway, like I said, I dumped a whole bunch of this stuff and took it out of the boot here, and that definitely reduced the memory footprint for sure. the Linux Mint project, while I really dig things like the X apps and stuff like that, there has been a little bit of what I would call feature creep within the project in the last few years or so. Because I remember, boy, when you would boot up Linux Mint like 17, for instance, and you opened up that same startup applications, there was 4 things on there. And so it is what it is. You can turn it off or turn it on if you want to. I don't really care. It's entirely up to you. So what else is there to talk about in Linux Mint? You get a nice full, I mean, this is one of the things I really like. With Ubuntu, especially the standard spin, they don't give you the full suite of applications that come with LibreOffice, okay? So what happens is that you might find yourself missing some part of the applications there, so I always end up having to install them. And I like to have this opener here where I can click on this and it'll take a second to load. Like I said, we're spinning, okay? We're spinning. And I like having this where I can choose what I want to do. This you can't get to in Ubuntu. For some reason or another, they have removed this and it doesn't work. And I don't know why. I have no idea, but I like that. Okay. So, Linux Mint still does the... Let's go look at this real quick. We'll look at the Update Manager. They have revamped the Update Manager quite a bit. In past videos, I've said that this is actually a bit on the confusing side, and I still think it is, because when you first install this, it bombards you with stuff to do. It's like if you don't set up the snapshots, it'll tell you to do that, and then it tells you to find your mirrors, and it's kind of hard sometimes to figure out what the first step is going to be when working with this particular application. We have the kernel tool, which, like I said, again, is sort of, in a way, this is really cool, but then I think for some people this might be a bit confusing. So you see the kernels that are actually installed and what's running right now on this system. And so when the next kernel comes in, you will have to come back in here and remove the old ones. They have a kind of a one-click way to do that now, which is nice, but for a long time they didn't. You had to get rid of them one by one. One of the things I get people asking me about constantly with Linux Mint is, hey, I can't install a new kernel. It's telling me I'm out of space, and I don't understand because I've got a terabyte drive in this machine, and it's because what is happening is that you have an EFI enabled machine and it's run out of space in the EFI bootloader partition to put the necessary kernels to boot the machine. And so you have to remember to come back in here and get rid of these old kernels when the new updates come in. If you don't do that, then you end up with a whole bunch of kernels on the machine, which slows everything down. It slows down your updates, yada yada yada, on and on. And in Ubuntu, what they do is that if you're using the graphic update installer, it will tell you you've got some old kernels here. Let me go ahead and get rid of them for you. And it just says they're packages that were installed but no longer needed. You really only need the latest kernel and the one before it installed. And the reason why you would want to have the one before it is if there's something wrong with the latest, you can always roll back and boot on a known good kernel. So I am happy to report that I was able to go in and set up my software sources without any problems. And let's see here. Let's go take a look at that real quick. And if I go to edit, it's look, we can go to time shift there, system snapshots. So if we look at the software sources, you can choose your mirrors. And in my case, where I am in the world, it's better just to choose James Madison University for both the Linux Mint and the Ubuntu repositories. And that way it kind of keeps it all lined up. I like to try and find a university or other organization that actually hosts both Ubuntu and Linux Mint. That way there's no chance of them getting out of sync, or less of a chance. Sometimes these repositories, especially ones maintained by educational facilities, colleges, whatever, they'll be down for a little while for maintenance on the weekend. That just happened not too long ago, and I had some people contact me and say, hey, I don't understand. It's saying that it can't get its updates. That's because they're playing with the servers. Don't worry. Wait a day or two, and it'll be all right. Some people freak out, and then they go looking for other mirrors. I have learned with experience, just leave it alone. And if for some reason that you mess something up here and it ain't working right, you can always just revert back to the good settings. That's a good thing that Linux Mint has done. So yeah, I'm kind of impressed with the stability so far of the desktop. When I first installed this, I was having, I don't know what was going on. I was having all kinds of crazy issues with it and not being able to get like the Chrome browser to work properly and some other things. And then when I tried to install it in a virtual environment, it just went crazy. This time around, I don't know what changed, but everything's working the way it should. And it's very solid. So before I wrap up the video here, let me tell you, if you're using Linux Mint and you like Linux Mint, and you're still sitting on Linux Mint 19.3 and you're wondering whether you ought to go for the upgrade, I say go ahead. Knock yourself out. As long as you're not using any snap applications, because then you might run into an issue where you're going to have to enable snaps. I have not fooled around with that at all trying to get it running. On my Ubuntu systems, I have been installing a few snaps here and there, like I installed the snap of Skype on one machine because I needed it, and that little MP3 gain program. But on this particular machine, I have not done that. Now, if I should have to install Skype, I'm going to have to enable snaps. Linux Mint has made it so that if you actually go in here and try and install these snaps, let's go ahead and just full screen this here terminal, right? And we'll make it super big so everybody can see. And I'm just going to run a simple sudo apt install snapd. Alright, because this is how you would ordinarily install snaps on any distribution, not necessarily using the apt package manager, but anywhere if it wasn't already installed. And it's going to ask for my password. And it says that the package snapd is not available but is referred to by another package. This may mean that the package is missing, has been obsoleted, or is only available from another source. So for those of you on my last videos who jumped up and said, they didn't block it. Yes, they did. That's blocking it. And if you're a novice user, they don't leave you with any instructions now, do they? They don't tell you what to do. It's like, well, I'm got to get this snap running and I can't on my system. What the hell do I do next? This is what I don't like, ladies and gentlemen. Also, if you go to the... no, I don't want that. I shouldn't have clicked on that. Let me go ahead and get rid of that. No, we don't need the settings. Go back to the menu, please. Try it again. Get it straight, man. See, these videos are live, dude. So let's say that I want to look for the Chromium application. Right? Did I spell that right? Probably not. I don't know. We're going to find out. Okay, Chromium Browser, right? So we come up here, and what we get, and I know this is really hard to see on low-resolution devices. I'm not going to read it to you. It's posted all over the internet. It's basically a political message saying that we're not going to allow this because the Canonical folks decided to put this into a snap. And the way I look at it, if you don't want to have it go to a snap the way Ubuntu has decided, why didn't somebody just package it and put it in the Linux Mint repositories? Huh? Why do you have to make a political message out of it? Anyway. So, if you are running into these sorts of situations, I have to get rid of that menu up there. I don't like that. Do you like to have a menu on your terminal? Because I don't. Let's fix that real quick. Let's see. If I go in here, how do I do that? How do I do that? Okay, I go in here to Preferences, right? Right. And we go to General. Should we go to General or Global? What is this, right? Show menu bar. Alright, so if I close the terminal, and if I close this terminal, and close that terminal, it can go away. Okay. Keyboard shortcut to get a terminal in Linux Mint and Ubuntu is alternate control and T. Ta-da! No menu, and when I full screen it, look at that. Now, whether I'm going to keep that color or not, I really don't know, gang, to tell you the truth. Because I'm kind of used to having either a cobalt blue background on it or black at this point, but that's the way it looks in the theme, so I'll leave it be. We'll see how long that lasts. I don't need the menu bar. Okay, so what I have done here is I have gone to this lovely Frostbite's article where it says how to enable Snap and install Snap packages on Linux Mint 20. And I will put a link to this in the description for this video. They go through a big deal here and explain how it works and what happens when you try and make it get installed. Blah, 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 blah. So then they go through and tell you how to enable it. And what you have to do is, I think, do you delete this? It says the Mint team has included a new file named nosnap.pref in this particular directory. The file contains only blah, 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 blah. So do I delete that or make it go away? You only need to either comment these 3 lines out or delete the whole file to make that work. So there you go. And then I can install Snapd. Is that what it takes? Yep, that's it. That's all. Is there any more? Let's see. Once the installation finishes, you now have the full Snapd tool to install and manage Snap packages. If you want to know the version and all commands available, run blah, 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 blah. Okay. So yeah, pretty simple stuff, but I will put the link for those of you who need snaps. Like I said, I'm going to try and run this for as long as I can without installing snaps and see how far I get. I may never need one. Because really, this computer, these days, it does really simple work, gang. I use it to type news up for my radio show and also use it to log into stuff for the radio station that gives me like the promos that they're doing every day and things like that. It's one of the reasons I haven't really been fooling around with a lot of Linux stuff. Number one, I've been busy with that job. Number two, I am never alone because of COVID-19. There's always somebody here. And also, just haven't really been inclined to fool around with it. Linux seems to be doing what Linux needs to do, and it's doing it well. So the other life that I have, let me tell you about this real quick, and then we'll wrap up the video, is I am the 7 to midnight announcer at B99.9. This is a radio station in Southern Virginia, Southwest Virginia, that I used to work for many, many years ago when I was just a little baby DJ, and I am now doing that again, and we're using modern technology to make this happen. I did a video about that way back a long time ago. I don't talk about YouTube and Linux on the air. This is just me being a disc jockey playing country music. But you can check it out if you want to. I'll put a link in the description as well for B99.9. If you guys want to listen, you can go over here and click this Listen Live button, and it'll pop it up. Now, some folks are complaining that if you have an ad blocker on, it don't like it. They don't stream any ads, and I don't really know why it does that, but it's just the service that we have. Because we're not streaming any ads on our ad blocker right now, or on our ad blocker, on our stream. Never mind. You know what I'm talking about, right? Anyway, we're not streaming any ads, and so therefore you can safely turn your ad blocker off without worrying about people putting their tentacles into your world, because it's just not happening right now. If you want to, and if you don't, well, that's quite all right. And I'm usually there Monday through Friday, 7 to midnight, Eastern Time, U.S. And we are on daylight savings time now. So you can figure that out wherever you are in the world. I know in England they do the difference between summertime and regular time, and when we do what we call daylight savings time and regular time, we change at different times. So I know, it's confusing. Very. So anyway, gang, thank you for watching and hanging out with me. I mean, this is just really sort of an off-the-cuff video where we're just talking about stuff. And I want to, send kudos out to the Linux Mint project for working so hard on this. Like I said, there are a few things about it that I don't like, but we can work around it now, can't we? And if you have a little savvy, then you can make Linux Mint do whatever you need it to do. And right now, I think I'm going to stay with this for a while and see how far it goes. I haven't run it in quite some time, as I said earlier. And that's about it. Thank you so much for watching. I look forward to your comments. We'll do this again soon.